Metrics and KPIs are tools. They are there to inform you of something so that you can, as a leader or a studio or whatever, make good judgment calls. The metrics and the KPIs do not make the judgment calls. They should not. It shouldn't be once a metric or KPI hits some particular level, that means X needs to happen. And there are some limited cases in like live service or like release where that might be more true. But broadly, you want to be careful when you let the system make the call. You need to be very clear about when you need to break that rule if you have something like that set up, because the metrics and the KPIs they're not thinking through all the factors. They're just metrics and KPIs reporting data to you. So do they matter? Yes. If you over focus on them, I think that's when you get the objection that it can kill creativity in games, especially when you're focusing on everything becomes about ROI. Let's say everything becomes about like, well, all we're trying to do. I think mobile ran this pretty far prior to some shifts to privacy laws or regulations from Apple and Google a few years ago. But it was just like, hey, we have a machine that allows us to track, cost per install, sets of retention across games, and we basically plug a game that has enough retention with a low enough cost of install that we can market it. And if their marketing is good enough, and it usually is, they got pretty good at that, then we can basically print money. But I would say that they almost considered the game as an afterthought. And they would just have a bunch of games out there, and the whole idea was just to plug one in that had sufficient retention to make this machine work, and then to try to come up with more shifts in the regulations and the rules that like Google and Apple set out shifted that industry pretty dramatically, and they had to go back and kind of resolve some things. I think that's been really good for the mobile industry generally, also for players in the mobile industry. But that would be the place where I'd say like the example of where I'd say metrics and KPIs were most dangerous. The truth is you have to think about profitability of a studio. If you're not thinking about some things like ROI and how do we make money with this and how would we get it in front of players, and metrics are going to be helpful in doing all those things, you're making a mistake, unless if you're just playing with money that you have, like you're, independently wealthy and you're just like, I'm going to make a game with some friends. And that's the only point. And you don't care if anybody buys it. This is a for-profit business in that metrics and KPIs matter. If you focus on them too much, they will undermine your ability to be successful. And especially, I think this is actually something that happens more, if different parts of the game development process all focus on different KPIs, that will cause a toxic mess of misaligned incentives. So if the publishers are looking at a set of KPIs that's different from what the studio is looking at, but they're all supposedly trying to ship the most successful game, those different objectives will start corrupting their ability to stay aligned and just focus on building the best game they can. I would also say that the bigger mistake I see in metrics and KPIs isn't necessarily even the over focus on them to the point of killing creativity, although that happens. I would say that it's that they don't select a balanced set of metrics to gain data from. So a simple example, an internal example you might set is, let's say there's some way that you're measuring, like you believe that an important metric to measure for a team is its velocity. And this is a rough way to gain an understanding of the productivity of the team or the value that the team is delivering over time. You say that's the core objective that the leaders need to be monitoring, and you want to see it certainly not go down, and if preferably go up. And so you set that as a clear goal for everybody. That's the metric that matters. One of the things that may happen is that number will end up going up over time, but at the cost of the quality of what the output is, and at the cost of the morale of the team, because those leaders will push the team hard in order to achieve their sort of career aspirations and goals. And that will be at the cost of the quality of the product, because we're focused on getting stuff out fast, so our velocity number goes up. And also at the cost of the team's morale, because we don't care if they're happy about it. We just want them working hard. The net consequence of this is you produce things that people don't want to interact with, and you burn out your people and lose them over time. They either check out and stay in the role they're in, which is really bad, or they quit and you have to hire new and you lose their knowledge to your organization. So Again, this is an internal example, but one thing you want to do is when you're thinking about metrics, think about how your metrics balance each other so that when you're looking at metrics, you're looking at them as a dashboard rather than as a single dial. You try to get to 10, you're going like, what's the right balance I can create here? And to recognize that, oh, we got quality up really high, but it cost us a lot of velocity. That might be fine. That might not be fine. This is where human judgment comes in. And so what I would say is there can be an overfocus on metrics that can kill creativity. There can also be an obsession with singular metrics or metrics that don't properly balance each other. And as a result, this leads to that thing where like the metric makes the decision for you. Instead, if you're looking at a balanced set of metrics, which is hard to create, now as a leader, you get to make a decision about like, well, was that worthwhile or not? And of course, metrics are also never as precise as you want them to be. So that's something else to ponder, especially when it comes to how much like important things like how much do players like the game and how, satisfied is my team with working at. These are all going to be rough things to track over time. So you have to recognize what metrics give you and what they don't. They are useful. They are not all that is. And if you make them all that is, I don't think it's a good thing for the long-term success of your business. You will eventually either alienate your developers, you'll alienate your players, or you just start creating bad stuff.